Hi, my name is Candice Fathi, and this right here is my handsome husband, Bezad Fathi.
Hey.
Welcome to another episode of Fireside Chats with the Fatties. Today's episode, we are going to be talking about grief and mourning. Yes, and I wanted Bezad to start off with the sharing.
Yeah. So, I was thinking about what we're going through, and maybe sharing a story from my past, our past, can help all of us as we deal with grief. Um,
Our
about
recent, our recent past.
yeah. Several years ago, I was working for a commercial company, and I was managing a program, and they decided to automate the program, and so they started to lay off people that I was managing, and then soon after they told me I was laid off too. And I thought at the time I would get a job very quickly.
We were really excited.
Yeah.
There's a few really hopeful interviews that went
very quickly, very fast, and
all the way.
Within a month and a half, it was already getting the final interviews, both at the same time, both companies, good companies, and hey, here's where you're going to be sitting, and here's your sign-on bonus check that's going to be coming. And I thought, this is a done deal.
Yeah.
And then found out that that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, pride comes before the fall, right? And so, that short period that we thought was going to be turned into 10 months of unemployment.
Yeah, 10 long months.
And it was very long. And it was not the first time that we've experienced grief, or I've experienced grief, or even the first time that I've experienced unemployment. But this was different in that I felt that it was longer than usual. And, we reached process it differently, the grief. You had a whole different experience in how you processed it.
I did. So my experience is that it wasn't our first bout of, switching jobs, right? And transitioning. However, it was much longer than we had expected. And so in my mind, I knew I had to lean into the grief because I didn't know when we were going to eat. I didn't know how we were going to,
take care of things. Yeah.
Take care of things, our finances. We didn't know, we had friends, that surrounded us that helped us to make sure that our freezer was full. That's a lot of F's, a lot of alliteration there. But our freezer was full, but our finances were definitely.
We made it right up to the end, but it took a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it took
a lot of creativity.
But also just how you lean into it was different than how I do it, right? You lean into grief. And do you want to tell them about that?
So, I don't know if it's my upbringing. I definitely have to give a shout out to, my mom and my family, because I think that when it comes to mourning and grief, there's a whole ministry surrounding that.
Mm.
And you learn that grieving is not something that you can do very quickly. It has its own process. It has its own ceremony. You have to give it space, and you have to give it time. And the death of something, even something as small as the death of a dream, or the death of a disappointment, or the death of a vision that you had, is something that needs to be honored and given its time.
Yeah.
And so every single day, I remember waking up and going for walks, long walks, and I would listen to the same worship song over and over and over again. And I would cry, and I would, mourn and wail, and I would listen to the same song over and over again. And then I would just wait. I would wait for my answer. And so it was walking, worshiping, and waiting. And that's all I could do. Sometimes, the grief is so much you can't even come up with the words. And so the words of a song are very helpful in being able to process that emotion that you're feeling. And sometimes, the weight of a grief is so painful and so heavy. You not only can you not find the words, you can't even read words, like to process words is difficult.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that's what I did. Walking, worshiping, and waiting.
Yeah, which is very different from how I process grief. Interestingly, she's Western, right? That's where she grew up and was
Grew up
born.
in America.
But the way she processes grief is very Eastern.
Yeah.
I am from the East. I was born in the East, but I process grief very much like Westerners, which is, hey, let's get through. What's the next thing?
Yeah.
I don't really want to stay in this place of pain and embrace it. I want to pull back and I want to get away from it. So she leans in, I pull back.
Yeah.
And it's really not healthy. It's very unhealthy to do that, because when you don't lean into grief, when you don't let it happen and go through it and allow it to happen, it ends up coming back. It doesn't go away.
Oh, yeah.
And in your body, you feel it. There's pains that come back. There's heart sickness, but also mentally, emotionally, in every way, spiritually, it impacts you.
Yeah.
Impacts your relationships. And I've had to learn over time that grief is a good thing. It's actually all over the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
God says in Psalm 34, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. God actually is closer to you when you're going through a time of pain and suffering. Mm-hmm. It's not a bad thing. And most cultures actually allow it to happen. They have time that they allow it to happen. Our fire went out, but we keep talking. They go through periods of ceremony and hardship. They allow it to go on, and they even actually visit it every year.
Yeah. 40 days.
Right.
100 days.
Yeah.
1 year.
They allow all of that to go on, and I think we're really missing out on that. So if you're going through COVID-19 and you think this is weird, I'm feeling a lot, and I don't want this, and let me just think about something else, it'll go away. It doesn't go away. Mm-hmm. If you're grieving the fact that you can't get out, or you can't do what you wanted to do, or even more serious, you can't graduate. More serious, you have somebody that's sick, or you're sick, or you've lost someone really dear to you. Mm-hmm. That grieving process has to take place, however long it takes. Mm-hmm. And running from it doesn't make it any better. Mm-hmm. One of our best friends, Chuck and Carol Bray, Chuck used to always say, you got to go through it to get to it.
Yeah,
and
through it.
Doesn't matter what it is. Yeah. There's no going around it, above it, beyond, under it. Mm-hmm. It is going through it. Mm-hmm. And so go through and embrace the grief. Yeah. And that's okay. Yeah. And it's healthy, and it's painful, it's hard. We've all been through it, but we may be going through it now. And as you're going through it, embrace it. Mm-hmm. Good things come on the other side of it. Mm-hmm. So that's really it today. We just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of a message of hope, as we do every time, and to remind you that grief is not a bad thing. We have another episode coming up on resilience, and I think that's where we will talk a lot more on how to get through it, but also what's on the other side of it. So hopefully this has helped you, and see you again at our next Fireside Chat.
Thank you for joining us for Fireside Chat with the Fatties. We love you. Bye.
Love you.